What's up, everybody? It's Goddess Z, and I'm here with another podcast episode on Holistic and Spiritual AF. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning into this podcast, you're going to want to make sure that you hit that follow, that subscribe, depending on what platform you're listening on. If you're into topics such as how to access your ancestors, how to connect with your divine feminine codes, anything pretty much esoteric, we talk about on this podcast episode from an Afro-Indigenous perspective. So definitely go ahead and subscribe and follow if you're into those topics. This podcast airs every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On the first and the third Fridays, I have a guest coming in, sharing their wisdom, their experience, giving you applicable tools and ways that you can live mind, body, spirit integrated. And we talk about that every episode because it's so important. Like if either one of those things are out of balance, then we are out of balance. Okay. So I have guests coming in on first and third Fridays talking about that. And then on the second and the fourth Fridays of the month, I come in with my downloads, my transmissions, things that have been guided by my ancestors and spirit guides for me to share with you guys. Okay. So that is what we're going to be doing today. And today's topic is going to be this is episode 67, y'all. Oh my God. This is going to be my last solo episode for the year of 2025. Of course, I'll be back at it hard and strong in 2026, which is a 1 year, a 10-year, new beginnings. There's going to be lots of changes, lots of amazing things happening for the holistic and spiritual AF community. Okay. But today's topic is episode 67, the power of discernment and your frequency and why it matters. Okay. So we are going in on this episode. Make sure that you stick around all the way to the end of this episode. I mean, I thought about it and I was like, why in the world haven't we done this yet? Okay. This is going to be such a juicy episode. You do not want to miss a single minute of it. Okay. So make sure you tune in all the way to the end. And of course, fam, if you're coming back, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much. The podcast is growing, the community is growing. There's so many amazing things that are happening, classes, books, events, all sorts of amazing things are happening. So check out the holistic and spiritual AF.com website for all of that information. There's actually going to be an event that I'm a part of next week on December the 17th. I'm a part of the 12 Days of the Sweet Life. So it is a free access registered community type thing, and I'll have all that information down in the website. So check it out. It's not just me, it'll actually be other 15 other practitioners in there, and it's a way to help Black women to be able to rest in their soft era, okay, and their softness, okay. So check that out. And of course, I got a class in January as well. All right. Now, whew, oh, and don't forget to follow me on social media everywhere at Holistic and Spiritual AF. All right. And that's and spelled out. All right. I always have so much to say in the beginning. I'm trying to shorten that a lot before I jump into the topics, but I think I'm getting better. But it's like I said, the community just keeps growing. The events are keep coming and happening. People are getting helped. And that's what it's all about. Okay. So let's jump into today's episode. All right. The power of discernment and your frequency and why it matters. Okay. Because it does matter. All right. Let me let you know this frequency is raising on the planet as a collective. All right. And so there's a lot of people that are awakening. There's a lot of people who've been on the path for a while. A lot of people who had to go through their shadow work the hard way. And a lot of people who are reactivating things inside of their DNA. And that was a big part of the reason why I started doing the solo podcast episodes, because my ancestors were like, okay, get out there. It's time for you to go out there and start to share your gifts, because there's people who are looking for and searching for what it is that you have. And there's a lot of noise out there right now. Okay. So, just a little bit about me, because I recognize some people may not know about me. I'm heavily connected to my ancestors. I've been on my spiritual journey consciously for 21 years now. And for as long as I can remember, as a little girl, I was connected to my ancestors. Okay. I was a part of a very religious household and background. So there was nobody teaching me and showing me how to do these things. These were things that I had to start to come into and activate on my own, but my ancestors were always walking with me and guiding with me until I got to a place where I started to heal things within inside of myself. So I started being guided and led to different communities. I started out on the New Age side first because that's all I knew, and I got into things like meditation and yoga and metaphysics, crystals, all that good stuff. And essentially, that led me down a path to connecting with traditional African spirituality. So that was a huge process as well that taught me even more about myself as an Afro-Indigenous woman, and really kind of connected me to my ancestors consciously. Okay, so before that, I would call them spirit guides because that's what they were called on the New Age side, and then essentially I began to rest into connecting with my ancestors, and I started doing practices and things like that that allowed me to really start to build that relationship with them consciously. So knowing what I know now and having done that for so long, I know that my ancestors were always with me, even as a little girl. And so I talk about that in some of the earlier podcast episodes. I really go into my personal experience with that. So if that piques your interest, be sure to check out some of the other podcast episodes because, yeah, we're always going in. And like I said, it's not just me. I have guests on the podcast as well that share their wisdom and expertise. And they cool and tight with their ancestors too, okay? And you are as well. That's the thing. So you're landing here because something guided you here. Something said, "Hey, go ahead and click on this video. What's she talking about?" And I truly believe that's the way that it is meant to be and designed to be. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit too, as well, because like I said, the frequency is raising on the planet collectively, and so many people are spiritually sensitive right now. The veil is a lot thinner. We're in the age of Aquarius as of about 2 years ago. We're ending a 9-year transformation year, so there's been a lot of clearing of karmic cycles for a lot of people, a lot of getting rid of residue. Things that were blocking us from stepping into our purpose and our destiny and our legacy for our families. So, like I said, there's a lot of people looking and searching for things, right? So that is what's going to make spiritual discernment even more important, okay? Because there's so much out there, okay? There's so much out there online, on social media. I'm so glad to see a lot of people doing the things that they're doing, but then me being who I am, and having the awareness and discernment that I do have, as well as the backing that I have with my lineage, I see a lot of mess out there. Okay, and so if you're new and you're just starting out, you don't know what's what. Because I remember when I was just absorbing everything because it was like these people seem like they're talking about what it is that I'm feeling, and I would be so excited. But I had to kind of go through the process to realize that spiritual discernment is something that you want to have right on up there with protection, right on up there with a connection with your bloodline ancestors because you're going to need it, particularly if you're at the beginning phase of your journey. And really, no matter what phase of your journey, even if you're in the middle or somewhere towards the end, you always got to have that discernment, okay? So, if you know me, your girl goes in and we drops gems, okay? So make sure you either taking notes, or you're just ready to be in a position where you are ready to receive this information. And as with anything that you hear from me, I always say do your own research. Don't just take my word for it. You know me, I'm having downloads, transmissions, my ancestors speaking through me, but your ancestors also are speaking to you in certain ways. So take what you need, leave the rest. If there's anything that you question, I always say drop your questions down in the comment section. If it's something that's simplified, I'll go ahead and answer it right then and there. If it's something you want to go deeper into your personal experience, I do also offer consultations as well. So check out my website for that. That way we can get a little more personal, to and you uniquely you. All right. So let's go ahead and break down what is discernment. Because a lot of times we throw these words out here, we don't even know what they mean. And I know not everybody's like me, but I'm the type of person that it's still to this day, if it's something I don't know, I'm gonna look it up. I just got that seeker spirit, okay? So even words, and I was always like that, even as a little girl. I was really good at English and vocabulary. I read a lot of books, and I would always, if it was a word I didn't know or understand, I would look it up, even if I thought I did. So let's talk about what discernment is to begin with, okay? Discernment is going to be the ability to feel energy beneath words and appearances, all right? The inner knowing that comes from your ancestors, not your wounds. The wisdom that rises in your womb space, your solar plexus, and your heart. The frequency filter that protects your destiny. Very important. And if you know me, I always come from an Afro-Indigenous perspective, okay? So in Afro-Indigenous traditions like Yoruba, Akan, Dagara, Hoodoo, and Native teachings, Our discernment is directly tied to our ashe, or our life force energy, okay? Our intuition and our ancestral memory. The elders were trained to feel the truth, not just hear it, okay? And women, especially womb holders, were known as the first oracles, okay? So discernment is not paranoia. Discernment is going to be pattern recognition and energetic intelligence, all right? So that is a very brilliant way of describing what discernment is. But as you can see, it's something that actually comes from inside of you. It's going to be a culmination of different things. It's going to be connected to your intuition, always intuition at the forefront, because you have to learn how to start to strengthen that spiritual gift and that spiritual muscle, because you're going to need it. It's going to be the thing that kind of warns you from things. It's going to be something over time you begin to trust. So sometimes what you may think is what it is to do, your intuition is like, nah, not this time, or no, not at all. You shouldn't be doing that anyway. And you start to listen to it. And there you kind of strengthen your discernment as well once you start to learn and you start to trust. Okay. And then, of course, once you start to connect with your ancestors and your spirit guides, and you grow that relationship where you trust the relationship with them as well, they're also going to be throwing in their 2 cents, and they're going to be guiding you as well. And so you'll start to have what I like to call a spiritual council. Okay. So it's not just me, it's my intuition, it's my ancestors, spirit guides, it's dreams, it's things that I feel, it's my nervous system. It's a culmination of different things that is communicating with me in a way that's not necessarily words. Okay. And of course, my ancestors communicate with me telepathically all day, all day long. All right. And my higher self as well. So, all of these things connected, me being a womb holder, me having activated certain codes in myself, me being a divine feminine, discernment is a very important part of my spiritual practice. Okay. And I need it. I need it in all things, not even just spirituality, but I need it in life too, when making decisions and choices about things. But for the purpose of this particular episode, we're talking about spiritual discernment. Okay. And then I also want to go into the divine feminine and the rising frequency. So I talk a lot about on my TikTok videos. I always say at the end, make sure you follow me if you're into topics such as how to connect with your ancestors and how to activate your divine feminine codes. Okay. So this is particular and specific to my lineage, the work that I am doing, and the work that I'm here on this planet to do. Okay. And I've elevated my frequency to a certain level, and I've activated my divine feminine codes, and I'm continuing to activate more codes and ancient codes in my DNA, because when this consciousness expanded for the planet, it also expanded for those of us who were already using our gifts as well. It just kind of, unlocked us into position, the way that I see it, based on the ones of us that I've come across. So I always talk about things from a divine feminine perspective, because that's also what's happening. Okay. We've been working and functioning under a patriarchal construct, which is kind of the root of all of the mess that we're in. All right. And that's a whole nother podcast episode. And that definitely requires some research. So if you want to start researching that information, start to look up things surrounding Tiamat, and start to look up things. Surrounding Murdoch and things like that. So, because then you're going to start to definitely access and activate codes within inside of yourself. Okay. And I would implore you to read as well. So it's okay. It's cool to watch some videos and get you like a little 30-second to 3-minute short, but it's definitely on these deeper, more ancient understandings you're going to want to read, because it's going to activate things with you. And don't forget to take your ancestors along with you, because they're going to always guide you as well. So the divine feminine and the rising frequency a lot has to do with the divine feminine raising in consciousness as well, and coming back to take her rightful place on the throne. Okay, because things have become flip-flopped and out of order, and we have been functioning, like I said, under a patriarchal construct that has taken us completely away from nature. Even if you think about Mother Earth, or some people call her Gaia, she is a she, and everybody knows that. There is nobody that ever says Father Earth. Okay, everybody knows Mother Earth. Okay. We also know about the moon, and the feminine energy of her, and how the moon, our cycles, rotate around the moon's rotation. So a lot of different things have been flipped upside down, and we have gotten pulled away from that. And that's kind of got us into this systemic oppression, racism, murder, all kinds of horrible things that we experience that are completely outside of the construct of the divine feminine, the natural flow and order of things, and not so much as hierarchical and dominant and controlling. Okay. And when I say divine feminine, I'm not saying divine feminine like women over men. We're talking about energies, we're talking about frequencies, and we're talking about the natural order of things. Okay. I had another podcast episode with a guest, and we talked about the primordial womb. Okay. And how everything came out of this womb state. Okay. So definitely check that episode out. We're having a part two next year on that because he was going in like nonstop. All right. So that will probably answer some of your questions when it comes to the divine feminine and the rising frequency. But the bottom line is this is what's happening around the planet. And for some of us, our divine feminine codes are being activated. Okay. So we're in a timeline where divine feminine codes are resurfacing. Many of us are remembering our lineage gifts. The womb is activating, the intuition is sharpening, and the veil is lifting. And so I talk a lot about the womb as well. And why is that? Because you have to think about it from an ancestral perspective and an ancestral memory perspective. That is where a lot of our information is stored. Okay. The womb is a temple for a woman. Okay. Our children come out of the womb, and we came out of a womb. So if you continue the cycle of the womb, there's a tremendous amount of information that is connected directly to the lineage and connects you to your ancestors, and is it just houses, it's a powerhouse. Okay. It's a powerhouse. So the womb is very, very important, and beginning to activate those codes is going to activate things that I can't even describe to you. You would actually just have to experience them on your own. And there's different ways to do that as well. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, so the intuition is sharpening, the veil is lifting, the chosen ones feel different right now, more sensitive, more aware, and more called. And when I say chosen ones, I'm talking about people who have been chosen by their ancestral lineage. They have been anointed and appointed through doing the work. They chose to come here and be a cycle breaker inside of their family. Those are the ones I'm calling chosen ones. I'm not saying that everybody isn't special in some sort of a way. I'm just talking about being a chosen one is work. And if you know you didn't sign up for that, for all you know, your soul may have a different purpose on the planet. It may not necessarily be the one. You may not even need to be the one in your family bloodline. Okay. But for some of us who come from families who have long forgotten their divinity and where they come from, we came down here into chaos, madness, dysfunction, pandemonium, and we had to get out of it and reconnect to ourselves and remember. Okay. So it wasn't like it was a cakewalk, like we just started walking around wearing crowns and capes and stuff like that. No, it was like you're going to get beat up. You're going to get beat up, and then you're going to remember. so so that's what I mean by chosen ones. Okay. But they feel different right now. We feel different. Okay. We're more sensitive, more aware, and definitely feeling more called to do what it is that our soul came here to do. And as the frequency rises, imitation rises too. Okay. And that's the main purpose, really, of this particular podcast episode, is because I want you to know, with all this amazing stuff that's happening on the planet, and it's like, wow, this is an exciting time to be here. We may actually get to see in our lifetime, we will get to see in our lifetime, the shift and the beginning and the turn back into the natural order of things, where we begin to raise consciousness on the planet as humanity, starting with the divine feminine back in her rightful place. And, it could be just a total different reality and experience as it was always designed to be. So as this frequency rises, you got to know that there's imitators out there rising too, because like I said, on social media, there's a tremendous amount of information. Like when I first started doing this, there wasn't all of this. That's how I had ended up going on the new age side of things, because I didn't see anybody that really looked like me, even though they were out there. I just didn't have access to them. And so I had to cling to what it was that I had access to. And in doing so, I ended up going somewhere over here, which still wasn't a bad thing because it connected me to a lot of energy healing. I tapped into my gifts as an energy healer. I still was activating things, and I still was on a journey. It was part of my journey. But essentially, like I said, my spirit, me being who I am, was being called to my African roots, to my indigenous roots. And so I had to get old over there with my people and find out what it is that my ancestors was doing. Okay. So like I said, I went through the work, but if you look at social media today, there's so much information out there. It really is. And some of it is really good stuff, and some of it is somebody just read a book and they found something out, or they watched somebody else's video and now they're gonna take it as their own. And a lot of times they haven't done no work. And I've encountered these people personally. Okay, I've encountered them in my own personal journey when I was just beginning. I bumped into a lot of charlatans, a lot of people who knew more than I did, who could feed me and sell me a bill of goods, and I didn't know right from wrong or left from right. And let me tell you what that taught me. That taught me to plug my butt on in with my ancestors, okay? Because my ancestors began to start to guide me, okay? Because when I was left to my own devices out there, just trying to figure it out, just like everybody else, I was getting taken advantage of in certain places by people who looked spiritual and they sounded spiritual and they looked like me, you know. So I thought I was safe because I'm over here with my people. And that's not necessarily so. And that's why I'm doing this episode, because for people who are truly searching and seeking, I want you to understand that spiritual discernment is very, very important. And that's why I always say, and I probably say this on every episode just as much as I say the mind, body, spirit integration. And at some point, you got to do the work, that you need to connect with your bloodline ancestors first. Okay, your bloodline ancestors first, man. And I talked about that in another podcast episode, why it is that we go in that specific order. It doesn't mean that you won't access and be able to connect with your cosmic lineage. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to connect with your higher ascended ancestry. It just means that you need to be safe. That's what I mean. You need to be with family, okay? Let your family guide you. Let your family be able to kind of tell you, help you with your discernment, because sometimes your discernment will be off, and they're there helping to guide you as well. So that's why I always say that, because they're going to help you to guide you, okay? They're going to guide you to things that are going to be specific to you and where you are on your journey, okay? So the mimickers are out there. The mimicker look the part, okay? But the code carriers, all right? Not everybody carry them codes, baby. You know why? Because we're all different souls on different levels of our journey, okay? Those who carry the codes are ancient. All right, they've been here multiple times. Some of them may not even be direct bloodline of the lineage and the family that they in right now. They just came here to assist that particular lineage to be able to start to break some cycles in their families and help them to be able to elevate and transcend higher in their spiritual journey. So, code carriers are going to be some of the ancient souls, okay, and they have done the work. But the mimickers, now a lot of times what will happen is code carriers carry a different frequency. Let's get that straight, okay? Frequency cannot be faked. All right. Frequency cannot be mimicked. Now, a person can wear the clothes, they can talk the talk, they can get initiated. You can buy so much stuff out there now. You could just go ahead and go through a class and get initiated in something, but never have done the work, right? Now, the person who carries the codes are the ones who's activated them codes, and they've activated their codes through do what? I'm going to say it, y'all. Doing the work. I gotta say it. You have got to do the work, sweetheart. And a lot of times what you'll see is you'll see some of these people out here that looks and we all scrolling, right? Because I have to do it too. I'm on social media as well. I have to put myself out there as well so that people know how to access me, how to find me, so that people who are really searching for a certain type of frequency, my frequency reaches them. So I get to see quite a bit. I'm a content creator, but and not a content consumer. But in the process, I still get to see a lot of what's out there. And so what you'll see is you'll see people, like I said, they sound really good. They sound like they, know they stuff, and sometimes people hide behind intellect because, if you know a lot, then a person means that you must be that. They think you must be that. And that's not necessarily the case either, okay? It's what I like to call spiritual cosplay. You got a lot of people here dressing up. I see people on social media with a full out freaking costume on. Like, I'm like, is that really necessary? Like, because frequency, you ain't got to do all You ain't got to do all that. Like, I'm like, what am I wearing today, y'all? I'm wearing a Winnie the Pooh, okay, which I thought was super cute. A Winnie the Pooh t-shirt and some leggings. All right. It's not about that, and I had my phase too. Don't get me wrong. I was running around here with dashikis on and wraps and head wraps and all that stuff. And to each its own with that, because some people have their specific reasons as to why they do things. And see, you got to know who you are, your lineage, and what's specific to you to know what it is that you need to be doing for you, and not just doing stuff because it looks like it's spiritual. Okay, but I've seen some people with the whole get up, the whole garb, and I'm just looking at them like ain't none of that necessary if you really embody the frequency. Okay, somebody who embodies the frequency change and shift the energy when they walk in a room everywhere they go. Okay, everywhere they go, somebody who is carrying frequency, you it's their voice and has a certain sound and a tonality that cannot be faked, honey. I'm also a meditation facilitator, right? So, and I'm going to start amping those back up in January. So make sure you're following me on YouTube at Holistic and Spiritual AF, and just really stay connected to me because we're going to be doing a lot more with meditation, because I'm being called to do that. But one of the things that I found out about my meditation style that I didn't know, I answered the call of spirit and my ancestors a lot for a lot of the things that I do. And so when my ancestors say do this, I do it, and that's all there is to it. So one of the things they told me to start incorporating about a year ago was meditation, and so I started doing that on TikTok. I was doing it live on TikTok, and like a lot of people were coming in. But what I realized is that my voice, um, it's hard to describe. My voice was and the style was very different than a lot of the other meditation styles that I have experienced. And it's not like I'm doing anything super extra on there. It's just that I noticed the difference because I listen to my own meditations. When I do my meditation, my personal meditation, I listen to my own. And my ancestors explained to me, they were like, sweetheart, you have a frequency. It's the frequency and the tonality and the sound and the vibrations of your voice that actually shift frequency in people. And so I was like, "Ooh, that's dope." Like, it's one of these spiritual gifts that was unlocked for me, kind of similar to the energy healing work that I do. It's very, very similar. And what it does is it allows for other people's ancestors, spirit guides, healing guides, that I channel and do different things to come in and do whatever is specific and necessary for the person and the individual. And it starts to shift energy, it starts to shift frequency, it starts to align the person to where they're supposed to be. I don't get in and start trying to pull strings, call the shots, and all of that. I'm a facilitator of healing and shifting of frequency. So that is a prime example of how, yeah, a person may see and hear that, oh, she's doing meditation. That's really cool. I could do that. Anybody can do that, right? You could just talk slow and get some good music with it. And yeah, and you can do that. But the frequency is what people would not miss. That's the thing. Why is this one so different compared to that one? And so those are the types of things that you want to kind of look for when you're using discernment, because sometimes people go really all out there with the costumes and everything, and that's not what makes you spiritual. It's about that frequency, baby. It's about that frequency, okay? So anybody can copy your style, honey, and anybody can copy a style, your language, your rituals, but they cannot copy your frequency. And that's why discernment is key. You always feel the difference before you can explain it. Okay. So now we're tapping into those esoteric wisdom, particularly if you're a womb holder, you're tapping into your oracle. What is your oracle telling you? What is your intuition saying? What is your ori saying to you? What are your ancestors saying to you? How does your nervous system feel right now? I've talked about a lot of these different aspects of these things on previous podcast episodes. Your nervous system tells you a lot, your emotions tell you a lot. So there's a lot going on that you want to start to learn how to tune into. And that's why I'm so big on meditation, because meditation will allow you to start to quiet down, to start to tune into your body. And there's many different styles of meditation. It's not just the quiet kind. There's also the yoga, movement meditation, qigong, things like that. Just get out there and start figuring out which one that works for you. Because after that, I promise you, you're going to start being much more internal, and you're going to start to receive messages and start activating things inside of your DNA that are specific to you and what you're ready for. Okay. So, hopefully you guys got some value out of that. I broke down discernment as well as the divine feminine and rising frequency. And now I want to talk about why discernment matters, okay? Because that is really important as well, okay? And I can't go through everything because I always end up taking too much time on these episodes. Um, I always giving so much information, but hey, that's just kind of how it is. It flows through me like that. So discernment matters. We're going to talk about five powerful reasons, okay? And so the first one is going to be discernment protects your frequency. Come on now. Come on now. And this is going to be important whether you're on the beginning, in the beginning of your journey, or in the middle, or at the end. All right. And the reason why is because some people in the beginning of their journey, you have a high potent frequency. You just haven't activated it yet. And that was me. I was walking around here not knowing who the hell I was on that level. And I would go into some of these spiritual spaces and they knew who I was, but I didn't know who I was. And if they know and I don't know, then it makes it easy for people to do things like steal your energy. Okay. And then if I'm not connected to my ancestors and or my intuition, you can do whatever the hell you want to do with me, and I wouldn't be none the wiser. Next thing you know, all my blessings are gone. And I'm wondering why things can't work for me. And somebody's over here siphoning a never ending supply of frequency, of royal frequency because they ain't got none of their own and they know they don't. And they ain't finna tell you that. And they're going to try to keep you around and suck you bone dry. All right. So discernment is going to protect your frequency. When once you start to raise your vibration as well, like so when you actually do start doing some work, you do start healing some things, you're going to consistently and continuously be elevating your vibration and your frequency. You're going to attract good and bad. Know that. So you're going to attract some people that are like, "Ooh, the light. This is good. I want to be around this one because I'm light too." And light, keeps us lighten up. But then you're going to see some bad ones that's going to see you a mile away too. And that's some of the ones that I talked about. Some people are going to drain you. People are going to want to, hang on to you and cling to you in some sort of a way. Okay. And we call these spiritual parasites. Literally, they will suck you dry. There's a reason why people who've elevated themselves to a certain frequency don't be around everybody. Why? Because they use discernment. And most of the people you around and dealing with, you can't be around too much like that. There's certain people who can't even be around their family. Why? Because they drain the hell out of you. And I did a whole nother episode on that. So check it out. But we call these spiritual parasites, okay? You also have the energy mimickers, all right? And like I talked about them, people who want to be you so damn bad. And you, AKA haters, AKA monitoring spirits, okay? They want to be you so bad. This is what I have encountered on so many different levels. And this will be people that I don't even know. I'm like, what is your problem? But I know exactly what it is. And they will want to mimic me and then get mad at me because they can't be me, because a lot of times people think that, oh, I could do what she doing. That's super easy. And sure, you could try. But what they don't realize is what I just told you. 21 years in the game, they don't know about the healing that I had to go through. They don't know about my dark nights of the soul. They don't know about the shadow work that I had to go through, the losses, the things that I had to let go, the many times I had to start over, all of the different things that I still had to go through and still come out on the other side to become this. Okay. I just ain't this. I had to become this. Yeah, I may have been this soul return, but I came through a particularly difficult, rocky beginning that most people wouldn't have been able to survive. But this particular soul was able to hack it through, and they knew that. And so they was like, we're going to put you out there and it's going to be hard. You're going to almost die. But if you can make it, and that's how it was for me. So throughout that whole entire journey and process of all of my adult life, I became this, okay? I become, and I'm still becoming, okay? Because as I continue to elevate, raise my frequency, and move into different phases of womanhood, of motherhood, becoming a matriarch of my family now, carrying the lineage, because I've successfully broken karmic loops and cycles inside of our lineage. It's like, okay, now here's the torch. You are the matriarch for the generations to come. So leading in and ushering in a whole new generation of ancestors and being at the head of that as a matriarch, man, coming from where I came from, good God. And I thought that was responsibility. They'd like, here goes some more. And I love it. And I love it, because like I said, I know where we came from and where we are today, and a big part of that is because of my ancestors. Okay, so energy mimickers, they gonna get mad because they can't be you, but they want to be you so bad, and they'll be sitting there stealing all your stuff and your ideas and wondering why it fall flat and it don't work for them. And the reason why is because they don't have the frequency. Chances are they haven't done the work. Chances are they are not backed by lineage. Chances are what they're trying to do has nothing to do with actually what they're supposed to be doing. And instead of them doing the work and trying to figure out what their specific soul is here for, they're going to try to take your assignment, but they can't. Okay. Particularly if you are protected with your ancestors and your cosmic family. Okay. So, trauma bonded connections. Ooh, let's talk about it. Discernment protects your frequency. Like sometimes, and I talked about this before too. Sometimes during those dark nights of the soul, um, there was people that I had in my life that we was struggling together. You know what I'm saying? We was just really going through it, and nothing good was going for us, and we was just kind of swimming around in this low vibrational swamp. But then somewhere along the way, I began to elevate my frequency. I started to heal things and I started to move up and on. And guess what? I had to use spiritual discernment and realize that every time I was around certain people who just it wasn't working for them for whatever reason, that most of them weren't doing their own work, then I had to realize you got to let some people go along the way. Okay, I don't care how cool and close y'all used to be, you got to realize not everybody is going to be going with you. This is a solo journey. I think I talked about this before. This ain't no buddy system. We don't get to take our besties and we don't even get to take our freaking family. So just prepare to be losing some people along the way. You're going to have to use some discernment and learn when it's time to cut people out of your life and when to do it in love. Okay. So all of these come for the people that shine, especially when they see you doing good. Like I said, once they see, oh, you looking good, things going good for you, and they just kind of want to be around you because your light is so bright. And so you have to use discernment because it's going to protect your frequency. These people will drag you back down. They'll take you to some dark places that you don't belong. And you could get stuck there. So Afro-Indigenous wisdom teaches us that your energy is sacred. Okay. Your energy is sacred. Your peace is sacred. Your aura is your first boundary. All right. You know how people say the 3 foot rule, and like when we had COVID and stuff like that, people had to be 6 feet apart, 3 feet, however. I like that. I like that. I didn't have a problem wearing masks out in public, and I didn't have a problem with the whole 3 feet, 6 feet thing. Okay, because get the hell away from me. I still don't like people that's like right up on me. Like that's a trigger for me. You can't be in my auric field unless you're invited in. Okay, you're someone that's trusted. You coming in for a hug. It's one of my children. It's some intimate thing. You're not just coming to be all up on me like that. And so my aura is going to be my first um uh form of protection. All right. Spirits, people, and opportunities all have signatures. All right. Discernment helps you protect your elevation. And just know that spirits, people, and opportunities all have signatures. All right. So start to notice the patterns. Okay. And in order to do that, you got to be functioning from the inside out. All right. Don't wait until something get to you and reach you before you figure out what's going on. You want to be going by these radar systems that you have inside of your internal realm. Okay. And that's going to help you protect your frequency. And all you got to do is get a little bit of peace, and child, you're going to be very protective of it like it's money or something. Okay. So that's number one. We want discernment is going to protect your frequency. That's a powerful reason right there. We kick it in the gate with power. And then the second one is going to be discernment helps you identify code carriers versus mimickers. All right. And this is when you want to have your spiritual gang with you. All right. Because sometimes people show up, like I said, like smiling and friendly, and you wouldn't know they were a foe at all, you know? And you just think, oh, this person is okay. And this actually happened to me recently. Okay, like I said, you could be beginning, you could be in the middle, you could be at the end. All you have to do is kind of relax a little bit too much. Maybe you stop doing your spiritual cleansings in the shower. Maybe you stopped, you haven't cleansed your home in a while, or maybe you haven't cleansed your car. Like you got to be vigilant on this path because energy is real. um Spiritual parasites are everywhere. Like you, as you start to elevate and raise your frequency and be shining, like literally, you have got to stay vigilant on this stuff. So it's real easy to kind of, whatever, let your guard down a little bit, and then next thing you know, you get a reason as to, hey, you need to tighten up, tighten up. Who knows? Maybe your ancestors have been trying to tell you, hey, you need to go and make sure you cleanse the floors, do what you got to do. And you just over there, oh, I'm so busy. I got to do this. I got to do that. Next thing you know, somebody gonna remind you why you need to go ahead and tighten up because your frequency is leaking. Okay, so code carriers versus mimickers. Some people come smiling like they good people, like they mean well. Like guess what? They dressed up. They look spiritual, right? This person, oh, they know so much. They know more than me. That's why I say do your own research. Okay? Do your own research because there's a lot of information that I hear online and I'll hear in different places that I'm listening to. And I may not know the intellectual information, right? But I'll listen to it. And then if it resonates with my frequency, then I can decipher at that time, discern at that time whether or not it's real and if it's not. And then I'll go research it after that. And then some stuff will hit and land and I'll be like, I don't know about that. Or I'll say to me, or I'll say, oh, that ain't got nothing to do with my lineage. I'll say that in a heartbeat because, not everything out there has anything to do with you either. And my ancestors have taught me that because a lot of times when I try to cling on to something because I'm like, oh, this look cool. I want to be doing that. They be like, that's got nothing to do with you. They be like, that ain't got nothing to do with your lineage. Stay in your lane. That may be what they're supposed to be doing, or I used to have information that I would receive, and we've all done this in the beginning. We want to go tell somebody, mess around and tell the wrong person, and then my ancestors would be like, "That's for you. That wasn't for you to go out teaching nobody nothing. That's for your understanding." So like I said, my ancestors have guided me in so many different ways that I've learned so many different things that this is how I live. I live from the inside out. Okay. But like I said, sometimes people show up, they seem nice, and then next thing you know, you find out about them. Okay. You may not find out about them right away, but if you're consistently living like that, you'll be able to tell if this is somebody that's a code carrier or if they're a mimicker. Okay. And that's the major part of this episode right here. The difference being able to discern the difference between a code carrier and a mimicker. And is so important because, like I said, with this veil lifting, there's going to be so much information out there. It's going to be information overload. And you got to understand that the powers to be, we'll call them that, the ones that are particularly running things right now, the false powers, they see what's going on. They know what's going on. They see this mass awakening happening around the planet and they're trying to figure out how in the hell we going to regain control. So know that they got some people out there who are on the other side that are confusing people, that are creating chaos and pandemonium, and they're not actually leading people anywhere, and they're just giving information, and some of them may be very influential, and so sometimes people see the numbers, and then next thing you know, they go over there because they must be the real thing. But see, we're not going by that. Okay. We're not going by the algorithm. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, I don't move by the algorithm, sweetheart. I move by spirit. I move by my ancestors. I move by the breath and the beat of my own internal drum. Okay. So I don't get moved and swayed by what's going on out there because all that stuff is external, right? And we're living from the inside out. Okay. So the whole point of this episode is to make sure that you're able to use your discernment, start to strengthen that intuition, connect with your ancestors, and learn how to tell who's a code carrier and who playing games. All right, because there's a whole lot of people out there playing games. Like I said, I've encountered some of them um, really recently. Like there's been people that I've reached out to be a guest on the podcast, and I'm like, wow, this person's doing amazing things, I'd love to have them be a guest on the podcast. And then I reach out to them and they scared, like they scared, like they can only perform in front of the camera. And you would think that somebody like that, who is, like I said, I just assume that people embody in this stuff. I don't assume everybody is a mimicker. That if somebody set me down, we could talk about this all night. We could talk about all kind of stuff and we can go in so many different directions with it because that's who I am, so I embody it, I live it, I am that, and I've gone through so many different um practices, initiations, certifications, experiences. That's how I can pop up here and do these podcast episodes. I just, write down my little transmissions and stuff, and And it comes out, like wow, and it's just never ending reservoir because of what's inside of my DNA. All right. So yeah, let's get into it. So code carriers, they've done their shadow work. You know what I'm saying? They hold ancestral permission. That's another thing. You got people out here doing stuff they don't have permission to do. They don't have spiritual permission to do it. Okay, they just out here doing things because they think it's just wild, wild west and spiritual, like the wild, wild spiritual west, And they can, you can get out there and do stuff, but the bottom line is you're not cheating universal law. You are creating karma and stuff for yourself that you're going to have to answer to, particularly if you're coming after highly protected code carriers. Okay, so they hold their ancestral permission. They've earned it. Let's say that they've earned it. Okay. Nobody is just handing anybody the lineage. These spiritual gifts and things have to be activated, and they are activated as we earn them, as we do the work. Okay. They emit a frequency that can't be faked. Okay. You can't fake frequency. I'm going to say that over and over again. You cannot fake frequency. If you don't know how to do nothing else but be empathic, honey, you can know to feel when something is real and when it's not, and use that if that's all you got. Okay. In the beginning, work with what you got. They activate others naturally. Okay. They walk with integrity, humility, and spirit. They ain't got to be loud. They ain't got to be yelling in the in the camera and doing all this weird stuff, because that's not necessary. They're not performing. They just are. They just show up authentically as they are because that's all they got to do. You know what I'm saying? We're done proving. We don't have to sit there and prove nothing to nobody. One of the ones I wanted to go back to was they activate others naturally. This is a gift. When I talked about the being able to shift the frequency in people, that's a gift that for a long time I didn't even know that I had. And because I had my own internal stuff that I had to heal because I didn't think, oh, I can't be that. I'm going by this human experience that I had versus the soul experience that I had, and who I am return. But that I do that everywhere I go. Okay. I do that everywhere I go, even at work. I activate people naturally, without even necessarily going into, let me lay hands on you and do all of this stuff. Sometimes people are just drawn to me. Sometimes people just start sharing things with me, and I hold space for them. And it's just certain things that I know how to do that I allow a person to do whatever it is that they need to do because they feel like they can trust me and they feel better. People are around me for a little while, and then all of a sudden they go off and they start doing things, and I look at them and I watch them. I think it's a beautiful thing to see that they start to activate what's inside of them. And for me, that's what it's about. It's not about getting a bunch of followers, it's getting a bunch of money. It's about helping to activate people so that they can connect with their own ancestors, their own intuition, their own spirit guides, so that they can start to become. You know what I'm saying? And I never try to get in the middle of that because that journey is so beautiful and it's so unique to the individual. And I think that's a lot of why I was trusted with this assignment. Also, other people's ancestors will bring them to me, and they work something out with my ancestors, and it's because I can be trusted. They know that I'm not gonna get the big head, get ego involved, and try to start controlling somebody' process or anything like that. All right. So that's what we mean by walking in integrity, humility, and spirit. I recognize that I'm a conduit and a facilitator of healing and a channeler. I'm just being used as a vessel to be able to help raise the collective consciousness, and that's an honor. That's a privilege, and I take that very, very serious. This is my walk. So that right there is a code carrier. Not to toot my own horn, but if you see somebody like that and that's how they moving, then you can kind of tell the difference between them and a mimicker. Okay, now let's say you are the person who's the code carrier. Now I'm talking to you. I'm talking to the other yous out there like me. Something you guys are going to have to watch out for, like I have to watch out, is the mimickers. Okay, especially as we begin to expand in our exposure, and as we start to expand in our oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? as we start to elevate and become more noticeable, put it that way. Because some of us have been kind of cloaked. We've been behind the scenes. We've been doing major things, but we've never really made it to big numbers. And there's a reason for that. Because the algorithm, like I said, they know who we are. They was like, don't let her go nowhere because she over here carrying frequency and code. No, they like, no, she be done woke up half the masses. We can't have that. We can't have big numbers with that. We need to have the confusion out there. But some of us will begin to elevate and our exposure. So what's going to happen is as we start to come out there, now you're going to be able to tell a lot more of the performers and who's the real deal. So what you got to watch out for, what I have to watch out for is the mimickers, the people who want to be you so damn bad. They want to be you. They next thing you know, they studying you, honey. They copying language. They're copying rituals. And like you're gonna know this because if you're like me, a lot of the stuff that comes from the stuff that I put out is coming from my ancestors. These are downloads, these are transmissions. You know what I'm saying? These are not things that I just I don't know where you hell you get them from other than there, but these are not something that I just bought or got from somebody else. And all of a sudden somebody saying your exact same words. You'd be like, wait a minute, hold up now. Like you'd be like, wait a minute, something's off with that. Okay. And that's because these people have been studying you. Know that. They have been going to your page. They've been watching all your videos. They're watching your mannerisms. They looking at the words that you say. They looking at your description. They going to your website. They checking out words over there. They literally studying you. Why? Because they know that you have something that they don't. You got the frequency. And what's making them even more nervous is the fact that more of us are starting to be surfaced and you now can see. So when a person is scrolling, frequency will capture their attention depending on where they are on their journey. Some people like to be entertained. They want to be mind numb. They want to be distracted. And that's cool. That's not who we're trying to reach. The ones who are looking for something, seeking for something, don't know what they're looking for, will be attracted to frequency. Okay. And that can't be fake. So when a mimicker comes across your page and they see all your stuff, honey, baby, they want to try to study you. And a lot of times, and I've had this happen recently, people that they will unfollow me. Okay, but still be watching my ass. They'll unfollow me, then I'll come across some of their stuff, and next thing you know, their complete language has changed. They have completely changed their whole everything that they're doing, and it's damn near spot on like mine. And I'm like, that's not even you. So you was not that when I met you like 3 months ago. But you know what? I know it's a part of it. My ancestors was like, hey, you might as well get ready for that because it's going to be some of them like that. And don't worry about it because they don't have the frequency, honey. They can copy, but they can never steal or copy frequency. So just remember that as well. And remember to always keep yourself protected, okay? And hopefully by the time you to that point, you definitely tuned in with your ancestors, your intuition and stuff like that. You is heavy on the protection, okay? And not only heavy on the protection for yourself, your body, your energy field, your digital space as well, okay? Because then we start to have and disperse all these videos all over the place, and you don't know who looking at what, honey. So you got to periodically cleanse your digital space, your IP, your intellectual property, your downloads, your transmissions, your sacred rituals, all that, okay? So mimickers are chasing attention, not alignment. That, like I said, they are a slave to the algorithm and don't even know it. They think they're doing something spiritual. They think they uplifting and awakening the masses, but all they're doing is they're part of the problem and they have become a slave to the algorithm because they got so caught up in that other form of distraction. They carry no ancestral backing. Why? Because they ain't doing no work. Period. They ain't doing no work. And I said this before. Now your ancestors are guiding you whether you're tuning in with them or not. However, they can only do so much because they're weak. They're weak without you actually putting in the work and the ashe and the spiritual life force energy to strengthen them as well, to give them the strength to be able to help you more. So if you got somebody who ain't doing that and all they do is say ashe and say ancestors, yeah, but they ain't got no ancestral backing. Okay, they don't have the strength behind their lineage. Some people may not like that, but those are probably the mimickers listening to the episode all the way to this point. I love it. They will imitate your light because they fear their own darkness. See, they don't want to do their shadow work because they know that shit is dark. They looking like, no, I don't wanna, okay, but I want what you got. I want to be like you. I want your light, but I don't want the darkness. And so out of the dark comes the light. And some of us that shine the brightest had the darkest beginnings, okay? Discernment is going to allow you to feel who these people are. And I say feel again because we coming from that internal compass, and whatever feeling looks like and feels like to you, your body's going to tell long before your mind will, honey. It is very rare that people can get over on me. Like I said, I got duped a little bit just for about a good half a day. You know what I'm saying? And that's because I was so busy doing so many other things. But boy, did I pick up and I peep game. And when I did, honey, we closed shop. We closed shop. We cleansed. We protected. We called all power back. We sealed up any frequency that was leaking. We did the digital. We cleared it up. They fell flat so fast it wasn't even funny. Okay, and that's spiritual discernment. So all right, and let me tell you, I felt something was off. I felt something was off. You know what I'm saying? But I couldn't quite prove it yet. And it wasn't very long after that then I had the proof that I needed. All right. So I want to go into the third one, which is discernment is going to keep you in alignment with your spiritual path. That's very important because a lot of times we end up getting pulled over here, pulled over there, getting distracted. I want to go see what they doing. I want to go over here. I want to talk about Anunnaki. I want to go to Ifa. I want to go to do hoodoo. I want to do the herbs now. Ain't nobody meditating. I love it. Everybody want to go over here, go over there, and they want to do all these things that where to work at? Where's the work? How hard is it really to stop and do meditation 5 minutes a day? 5 minutes a day is going to change your life, okay? Because it's going to elevate your frequency. It's going to help you to quiet your mind. It's going to help you to tune into your internal realm. It's going to help you to understand and your nervous system and begin to regulate that to a place where you're actually able to start to feel stuff, all right? And then this is going to be that foundational experience that you're going to have, and your intuition is heightened. And now you got your ancestors, and now they say, hey, you know what? I think it's time to XYZ, whatever that is for you. And now we're moving over here and we're going to sit down and we're going to learn it. And not only are we learning it, what are we doing? The work, which means we're applying it. Okay. We're applying what it is that we learn so that we can have the experience. All right. Depending on what it is for you. So, discernment is going to help you to stay in alignment with your spiritual path and not be so pulled in so many different directions that you get off and you get on somebody else's path and that's not even yours. All right. And then your frequency ain't going to be elevated because you're not in alignment with your spiritual path. All right. So your purpose has a frequency. All right. Whatever that is for you, there's a frequency that's connected to it. And if you disconnect from it and go to their purpose, then all of a sudden your purpose is just kind of hanging out here, stagnant, waiting on you to get back over here if you get back over here to it. And this is why your ancestors, I'm always going to say this, big, big, big time ancestor girly. All right. Your ancestors are going to guide you. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said that this episode already. Your yes and no sensations, your dreams, your synchronicities, okay? When you lack discernment, you get pulled off your path. You say yes to what's not aligned. You entertain distractions. You ignore red flags coming from spirit. Come on now. And see, that's the thing right there. We've all done this, myself included. I don't care where you are on the path. You got all the red flags. You got all the red flags and you ain't listening to none of them. You just off doing something else. You just running on autopilot. You just acting like an NPC right now. You know what I'm saying? Acting like you don't have a spiritual counsel and an internal compass that's telling you don't do that. And then you go do it. And you start thinking about all this stuff that's like, oh my God, I had all these red flags. I had a friend that told me, stop collecting red flags. Like, why are you collecting red flags? Like, the first one should be the one. So, but sometimes we have to go through this stuff to learn as well. So it's not to say that you're bad or you're not good enough or anything. Just pay attention to this stuff because I love being able to have this guidance throughout my life and not just be walking into stuff like I used to in the beginning. Okay. So when you embody discernment, you move with clarity, honey. You hear your intuition faster. You adjust immediately and you begin to flow with divine timing. All right. So now all of a sudden you're not so out of sync with everything that stuff that's coming up, you move and you act on it, you embody it. You're functioning as a soul and a spirit having a human experience, not a human with a spirit caged up there trying to say something you ain't listening to it. All right, so let's go into number four. Number four is discernment is going to strengthen your connection to spirit. All right, discernment is a spiritual sense, in a spiritual sense, just like sight and hearing. Okay, so higher frequency means clearer messages. Ooh, that's the truth. Ooh, 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 that's the truth. And I remember in the beginning trying to figure out what they was trying to say. And I know a lot of times in the beginning, that's what frustrates people sometimes is because they feel like they're not doing it right, because they can't tell what's what, and they don't know it's their higher self, their lower self. What's my ancestors? Is that my spirit guide? How do I know? And it's because their channel is not clear yet. Okay, so their frequency hasn't elevated yet because they got a lot of stuff and static inside of the channel, and they can't tell what's what. And so that's going to require a lot of inner work in order to clear that channel. Okay, but as you raise your frequency higher, then you get clearer messages. Lower frequency is distorted messages. So if your messages are not clear, you can't hear what's going on, chances are you need to cleanse, clear, protect. You need to meditate. You need to journal, whatever it is, that you need to do to get your frequency back elevated. Maybe you need to detox, using your intuition, your spirit guides, and ancestors. You'll know what you need to do, and you'll start moving in that direction. So in Afro-Indigenous teachings, ancestors speak through sensations, dreams, intuition, and breath. Very important, because a lot of times people think that they're supposed to have an ancestor talking to them just like I'm talking to you right now. And for some people, maybe that is how they hear it. Like I said, mine are very telepathic. So I internalize a lot of what it is that they're saying to me, and I just know. I know the difference between them, and the difference between the differences of my spirit beings. Um, so yeah, but they use other ways to speak to you. They're gonna use ways that you can understand depending on where you're at. So sensation, it could be dreams for some people. It could be your intuition, and it could be your breath. But in order to get to the breath, you gotta quiet. You gotta get quiet. You gotta stop and take a deep breath. Give yourself some time to calm that nervous system down and really tune and tap in. Okay. So your frequency determines how clearly you receive. We already talked about that. Discernment is how you distinguish spirit from ego. Ooh, did anybody want to talk about that? Really? Did we? Discernment. Oh, yes. Okay. So discernment is definitely going to help you be able to tell if you're functioning from your internal world or your external world, which is going to be connected to your ego, because your ego is all about protecting the outside of me. I got to make sure I got what I need. I got to make sure that I'm okay, and this, it's all going to be on the outside, whereas the inside and the spiritual side is going to be, I know everything's okay, no matter what's going on, everything is already taken care of. So yeah, you'll be able to tell whether or not your higher self or your lower self is the one that's talking right now. And your guides, your spirit guides and ancestors, this is true for mine anyways, they ain't never gonna speak through chaos, fear, or confusion. I'll have my ancestors get quiet on me. They'd be like, hey, we're not talking to you right now, because you now you need to clear that up. Or there's things that I'm confused about and I'm trying to do this and they ain't paying attention to this. They will get quiet. For as much as they talk, they'll just be quiet. They won't say nothing. And then all of a sudden, when I do whatever it is that needs to be done, and I get the clarity, and then it's like they come back online. And so that's the way that it is for me. Mine are not speaking through chaos, fear, and confusion, because they're not going to try to bust through that. You need to bust through that, and then clear the channel again so you can hear them. So discernment's going to teach you the language of your spiritual team. Ooh, man, man, that's a whole nother episode right there. This is a big one too, because a lot of times, like I said, people are like, how, what's going on? Like who said what? I don't know who talking. Is that my grandmama? You got to realize some of these people in your spirit team and your ancestors are people you don't know. People who are higher ascended, that are in your bloodline, but you don't know them. So you have to learn how they communicate with you. And everybody has a spiritual communication style, just as unique as our families are, and the foods that we make, it's the same. The language of your spiritual team, you need to understand that. You need to start working on that. You need to know who's who, and that's how I know, with my ancestors, the difference between them talking and my higher self, lower self. I mean, and the different ones. I got some that are lower ascended, not as high as the other, and those are the ones we just be cutting up, okay? Because like today we had a blast, and I was cracking up, roasting on somebody that was picking on me. So, so I know those are not my high ascended ancestors. I know the ancestors that are here for that, okay? So because I know the different communication styles between them. And I want to jump into the fifth one because, of course, this is a long one too, y'all, but we almost done. Number five is going to be discernment is a divine feminine activation code. Of course, we had to bring it back around to the divine feminine. It's an activation code. This is going to help you to activate them codes, baby. Once you start to learn and reconnect with yourself. Now, as you can see, this requires you doing things and experiencing things in order to be activating things. It's not just going to come from watching videos. Now, some people may watch a video and the video may activate something in you to go do something, but it's not likely you're going to have this whole entire like breakthrough and have codes activated inside your DNA just from watching a video. Okay. So, discernment is a divine feminine activation code. This is going to reframe. I'm sorry, the divine feminine is returning. Okay. So she's intuition. She is knowing. She is remembrance. She's sovereignty. We talked about that in another episode. Discernment is her sword. Okay. This is how you cut through the BS. All right. Like by the time you done activate it, and there's different layers to this and levels, of course. You just cut through the BS ASAP. Like, and that's me. I've got zero time for any of it. And I can't believe I turned into this person. Like, I'm not taking any shit anywhere on any day at any time. Okay. So my discernment is and my no is powerful. Okay. So discernment is her sword, it's her boundary, it's my protection. It's how she separates truth from illusion. And when your discernment activates, your womb speaks. Okay. So now we're starting to access that DNA memory, that ancestral memory. A lot of different things will start to activate. Your dreams may intensify. Your spirit becomes louder. Your boundaries sharpen. The old self falls away. Okay. These are all signs of a divine feminine activating in different stages of her development and her becoming and her remembering. Okay. This is how initiations begin, all right? And this is how chosen ones or divine feminines remember who they are, okay? So discernment's going to help you with that. As you can see, all the way 1 through 4 is going to kind of lead into 5 if you are a womb holder and a divine feminine. Okay, so number 1 was discernment protects your frequency. If you're protecting your frequency, chances are you're going to be having more discernment. And number 2, to be able to identify who's a code carrier and a mimicker, okay? Because once you start raising your frequency, now you're going to start encountering a lot of people that are attracted to you, light and dark, good and bad. All right. So you got to be able to decipher and discern who's who. All right. Out here in these spirit streets. Because you're no longer functioning just on the physical side of things. You're functioning in the spiritual realm, dual realms. Okay. Higher dimensions. Maybe not just 3, maybe you're in 4, maybe you're in 5. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, we still got to interact with 3. So you have to be able to discern. Okay. And get through the day. All right, so that's going to lead you into number 3, which discernment is going to keep you in alignment with your spiritual path. So the more you're able to do that, the more you're able to sit there and be able to tell what's for you and what's not. You're going to stay in alignment with your path. This is going to elevate your frequency even more. Okay, you're going to start to continue to expand and grow all of these gifts in your connection with your ancestors. And you definitely, at this point, are way more in tune. You're feeling people a mile away. You're protecting your aura. Number 4 is going to be discernment, strengthening your connection to spirit. Okay, so you're just more and more connected to the spirit realm, including your own spirit. All right, and then of course, as you're doing this all along the way, 1 through 4, you're activating these different codes. Okay, so you're activating things, and you're just becoming and remembering who you are as a divine feminine, depending on what codes you carry. All right. So I'm just going to give a quick little how to strengthen your discernment, just real quick on this one. If you're wondering this, because I could see this question coming, um, you're going to want to ground daily. What does that mean for you? That could be a short meditation. That could be actually getting out there and grounding in nature. You want to check your frequency. You want to tune in and see where you are today. How you feeling? Are you feeling drained? Are you feeling really amped up? Check your frequency and see what it is that you need to do. Listen to your body's yes and no. I talked about that in another podcast episode, and honor it. Honor it. That's part of being a sovereign embodied divine feminine, is honoring your yes and no. Don't be saying no when you really mean yes, and then saying yeah when you meant no. Like, honor that. Okay, because that's you honoring your internal compass. And then praying or speaking to the ancestors. Okay, this is always going to strengthen your discernment, because it's going to strengthen your channel with them as well. Noticing patterns, not apologies. All right, because sometimes people, they know not what they do. All right. They're not activated. They're not elevated enough. They're just acting out their unhealed patterns. Okay. So you can't even really get mad at some of these people. Just stay away from them. Notice the patterns. Okay. Is this a one time, one off? Maybe this person just ain't feeling that great today. Or is this person consistently like this? All right. Is this somebody I need to remove myself from and spend very limited time with? And so notice that, not a person constantly saying they sorry. Trust your first knowing, because your intuition is right 100% of the time. It's us that be off. Okay, it's our not trusting it is usually what's the problem. And then move slower and observe more. That's a very important one, because a lot of times we end up moving so fast. We're in the hustle culture. We got to do this, I got to do that. It's very easy to get distracted. This third density patriarchal construct makes it very intentionally easy for us to get sidetracked from our spiritual self. So moving fast makes it easier to make mistakes in pretty much anything, but it also makes it easier to lack discernment. But like I said, if you're plugged in, you're connected to source, you're connected to your ancestors, spirit guides, intuition, you're doing some of these things on a daily basis. Even if you do slide into some, you can get out real quick. Okay. So yeah, that's your girl. You know how she do, dropping them gems. All right. So that is it, you guys, for this podcast episode, which ended up being a lot longer than I expected. But you know how that goes. Once she start flowing, it comes out. Okay. So just remember, you can follow me on Holistic and Spiritual AF Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, everywhere that podcasts are aired, I think. Also, follow me on social media at Holistic and Spiritual AF. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere, y'all. Instagram, Threads, like way too many places at this point. So you could definitely find me. And of course, you can go to my website to get access to everything. That's spiritual consultations, books, classes, events. Also, join the newsletter. I do writings, I have books over there, all that good stuff. All right. And so that is it. Make sure y'all drop y'all comments down in the comment section. I look forward to seeing them, and I'll see y'all next week.